currently heading 50 kilometers offshore towards the deepest point in the entire Great Lakes system.
Some of the strangest mysteries in North America aren't found in the desert, the mountains, or the ocean. They're hidden inside the Great Lakes. Because beneath their calm blue surface lies a completely different world. A world of vanished airplanes, ghost ships frozen in time, underwater stone circles older than recorded history, mysterious creatures, and disasters so powerful they changed entire regions forever. Today, we are counting down the 25 darkest and most terrifying secrets of the Great Lakes. And trust me, after hearing these facts, you will never see these beautiful lakes the same way again. Let's dive in. The Great Lakes Graveyard. The Great Lakes may look peaceful today, but beneath their surface lies one of the largest freshwater graveyards on Earth. An estimated 6,000 to 8,000 shipwrecks rest on the lake floor, and more than 30,000 people lost their lives here. Most disasters happen during the deadly November gales, powerful late autumn storms that form when freezing Arctic air from Canada collides with warmer air moving north. The result can be hurricane-force winds and enormous waves. Between the 1800s and early 1900s, when thousands of cargo ships crowded these waters, many vessels sank so quickly that entire crews were trapped inside. What's even stranger is that over half of these wrecks have never been found. The 200-year water trap. If you look at Lake Superior, it looks like endless clean water, but in reality, it behaves more like a sealed container with almost no exit. Scientists call this its long memory. Here is what makes it shocking. This lake holds about 3 quadrillion gallons of water, yet drains out only through one narrow outlet, the St. Mary's River. Because of this, a single drop of water takes around 191 years to exit the system fully. That means anything that enters and stays for almost 2 centuries. Unfortunately, pollutants such as mercury, PFAS, forever chemicals, and banned pesticides like DDT are still detected in its waters today. Imagine how dangerous that is for the life inside it. It also reminds us to stop and think about what we are actually doing to this beautiful lake. The third coast. When people hear the word coastline, they usually think of oceans. But the Great Lakes change that idea completely. Michigan alone has about 3,288 miles of shoreline along these lakes, more than any other state in the contiguous United States. Even more than Florida, even more than California. Because of this, the region is often called the Third Coast. It is not a small detail. It stretches like an ocean edge, with beaches, harbors, and endless water views that feel almost like the sea. Many locals even argue it rivals the Atlantic and Pacific, simply because it is so wide, so open, and so real. The Michigan Triangle. In the middle of Lake Michigan, between Ludington, Manitowoc, and Benton Harbor, there's a triangular zone that has been linked to strange disappearances for more than a century. This area is known as the Michigan Triangle. Inside it, captains have reported compasses suddenly spinning out of control or freezing completely. And even modern GPS systems have sometimes malfunctioned without any clear reason. Some scientists point to iron-rich deposits under the lakebed that may disturb magnetic fields. But it still doesn't fully explain what people experience here. Ships like the Rouse Simmons vanished in 1912, and even Flight 2501 disappeared in this zone, a case so disturbing, we'll come back to it later in the video. Lake Erie's Ship Trap. Just like we saw in the Michigan Triangle, Lake Erie has its own kind of danger, but here, it's built into the water itself. At first glance, it looks calm and shallow, almost harmless compared to the ocean. But that shallow depth is exactly what makes it so deadly. Lake Erie is only about 62 feet deep on average, so when strong winds sweep across it, the energy has nowhere to go except upward. Instead of smooth ocean waves, the lake turns into short, steep walls of water that hit ships again and again, giving almost no time to recover. In some storms, the whole lake can even slosh side to side like a giant bathtub, without warning. Mystery of Flight 2501. On June 23, 1950, over Lake Michigan, Northwest Orient, Airlines Flight 2501, a Douglas DC-4 carrying 58 people, was flying through a violent storm. At 11:51 p.m., the pilot asked to drop altitude from 3,500 to 2,500 feet to avoid heavy turbulence, but the request was denied. Minutes later, near Benton Harbor, the plane suddenly disappeared from radar. At the same time, people along the shoreline reported hearing a deep, explosive sound over the water. In the days that followed, debris and human remains washed onto nearby beaches, which were closed for recovery. Despite decades of search efforts, the main wreckage was never found, making it one of the darkest aviation mysteries in the Great Lakes. The Underwater Stone Circle. In 2007, underwater archaeologist Mark Hawley was scanning Grand Traverse Bay in Lake Michigan when his sonar picked up something unexpected: a perfect circle of massive boulders sitting 40 feet below the surface. The stones form a precise ring nearly 40 feet wide, and some weigh thousands of pounds, placed in a way that clearly looks intentional, not random. Even more shocking, one rock has a carving of a mastodon, an extinct animal that disappeared over 10,000 years ago. That suggests the people who made it may have seen it alive. But how could humans live in a place that is now 40 feet underwater? The Ice Age hunting ground. This is perhaps the biggest discovery about the Great Lakes, especially Lake Huron. During the Ice Age, it wasn't a lake at all. It was dry land. Under Lake Huron, archaeologists found a 9,000-year-old hunting ground known as the Alpena Amberley Ridge, with stone drive lanes and rock blinds used to funnel migrating caribou. Caribou are large, deer-like animals that travel in herds over long distances, and ancient hunters used this route to trap them for food. Later, when the Ice Age ended, melting glaciers raised water levels and slowly covered the entire landscape, preserving it under Lake Huron. The invasive mussel takeover. Right now, Lake Michigan is facing a silent invasion that most people never notice. In the late 1980s, cargo ships accidentally brought zebra and quagga mussels through ballast water, and without any natural predators, their population exploded. Today, they exist in trillions across the Great Lakes, sometimes covering the lakebed in dense layers of up to tens of thousands per square meter. These tiny mussels filter massive amounts of water every day, which makes the lakes look unusually clear. But that clear water is misleading because it comes with a cost. These mussels eat the tiny plants and organisms fish depend on, and in just a few years, native fish populations have started to drop. The Kinross radar disappearance. This is the kind of disappearance story you have never heard before. On November 23, 1953, over Lake Superior, U.S. radar stations detected an unidentified object entering restricted airspace near the Sioux Locks. An F-89 Scorpion jet carrying First Lieutenant Felix Moncla and Second Lieutenant Robert Wilson was scrambled to intercept it. Ground radar tracked both signals as the jet closed in at high speed. Then, something strange happened. The two blips on the screen merged into one. Seconds later, that single signal disappeared completely from radar over the lake. The Charity Shoal Mystery. Under Lake Ontario, near the Canadian border, there is a strange underwater formation known as Charity Shoal. For years, it was just marked as a shallow reef, but modern sonar mapping revealed something far more unusual. It is a nearly perfect circular basin, about a mile wide, with a deep center surrounded by a sharp raised rim, almost like a giant frying pan carved into the lake bed. Some scientists believe this structure may be the remains of an ancient meteor impact that struck Earth hundreds of millions of years ago. But honestly, nobody knows the full truth behind it. The Great Storm of 1913. If anyone ever tells you the Great Lakes are just lakes, this is the story that proves otherwise. In November 1913, two massive weather systems collided over the lakes, creating what became known as the Great Storm of 1913, or the White Hurricane. For 4 days, hurricane-force winds reaching 90 miles per hour hammered the water, while blizzard conditions made visibility almost impossible. The storm destroyed or stranded dozens of ships and killed more than 250 sailors, making it the deadliest natural disaster in Great Lakes history. When it finally ended, bodies and wreckage washed onto shore, while many victims simply vanished beneath the lakes forever. Lake Effect Snow Machine. The Great Lakes don't just experience weather, they create it. In late autumn and early winter, freezing Arctic air moves south from Canada and passes over the relatively warmer lake water. As it does, it picks up huge amounts of moisture, which later falls as snow when it reaches land. The result is a phenomenon called lake effect snow. During a 2014 event near Buffalo, New York, some places received up to 7 feet of snow in just a few days. These lakes aren't just bodies of water, they're giant weather machines. Ice volcanoes. Just when you think the Great Lakes can't get any stranger, they start producing volcanoes. Not lava volcanoes, but ice volcanoes. During winter, powerful waves crash beneath thick shoreline ice and force water through weak spots in the frozen surface. As that water sprays into the freezing air, it instantly turns to ice, slowly building hollow cone-shaped structures that can grow more than 10 feet tall. Many are hollow inside and sit directly above deep, freezing water hidden beneath the ice. Sea smoke illusion. In deep winter, the Great Lakes can turn into something that looks completely unreal. Sea smoke, also called steam fog, forms when freezing Arctic air moves over the relatively warmer lake water. Even in January, the deep water can stay around 0 to 4 degrees Celsius, while the air above can drop to minus 20 degrees Celsius or lower. That sharp difference causes warm moisture from the lake surface to instantly freeze into tiny droplets, creating thick fog that rises like smoke from a fire. From a distance, it looks like the lake is burning or boiling, but it's actually freezing cold. Meteo-tsunamis. This is where the Great Lakes become truly unpredictable. Meteo-tsunamis, sudden tsunami-like waves caused by fast-moving changes in air pressure, not earthquakes, can turn calm water into sudden walls of destruction without warning. It begins when a fast storm line moves across the lake and quickly changes air pressure. That pressure pushes down on the water and creates a wave. If the storm moves at the same speed as the wave, it keeps adding energy to it as it travels, making it grow stronger toward the shore. Lake Superior's ocean scale. Lake Superior is not just big. It behaves like an inland ocean. It holds about 3 quadrillion gallons of water and contains over 10% of Earth's fresh surface water. Its size is so extreme that it covers more area than countries like Scotland or the Czech Republic. At its deepest point, it drops 1,333 feet, deep enough to fully swallow the Empire State Building. Because of its scale, it even creates ocean-like weather. Storms over the lake can produce 30 to 35-foot waves, similar to the Atlantic Ocean. In fact, ships can disappear over the horizon just like at sea. Earth's freshwater powerhouse, Lake Superior alone, is massive. But when you add all 5 Great Lakes together, the scale becomes almost hard to imagine. Combined, they hold about 6 quadrillion gallons of fresh water, which is over 20% of the world's surface freshwater and more than 80% of North America's supply. This isn't just stored water, it's a connected system. Water flows step by step from Lake Superior through the other lakes, then finally drops over Niagara Falls before reaching the Atlantic Ocean. The 45th parallel mystery. The Great Lakes sit almost perfectly along the 45th parallel, the exact halfway line between the equator and the North Pole. On a map, it looks like just another latitude line, but here, it cuts through one of the most unusual freshwater systems on Earth. Along this belt, the lakes show amplified weather, stronger storms, and sharp seasonal extremes, as if something about this latitude intensifies natural forces in this region more than others. Cold War secrets. During the Cold War, the Great Lakes weren't just natural waters, they became hidden military ground. In remote sections of Lake Superior and Lake Ontario, both the US and Canada carried out secret dumping and weapon tests, far away from public view. One of the most disturbing discoveries involves more than 1,400 steel barrels dumped off the coast of Duluth between 1959 and 1962, and even possible live explosive components still inside some containers. Ghost ship preservation. This is perhaps the most beautiful but also the most eerie secret of the Great Lakes. Deep under the surface, these waters don't just hide shipwrecks, they preserve them almost perfectly, as if time itself stopped the moment they sank. Because the water is fresh, cold, and low in oxygen, decay slows down massively. There are no saltwater shipworms to destroy wood, and the deep lake stays near freezing all year, locking everything in place for over a century. That's why wrecks like the Gunilda, which sank in 1911 in Lake Superior, almost untouched since the day they went down. The Griffin disappearance. This is one of the oldest and most mysterious ship disappearances in North America. In 1679, French explorer René Robert Cavelier, Sieur de la Salle, built a ship called Le Griffon, the first large sailing vessel on the upper Great Lakes. It carried a fortune of beaver furs after a successful trading voyage. But on its return trip from Lake Michigan, the ship left shore with its crew and simply vanished, still lost somewhere beneath the water. Bessie the Lake Monster. In Lake Erie, sailors have reported encounters for centuries with a creature known as Bessie, or the South Bay Serpent. Long before modern sightings, indigenous stories from the Iroquois and Seneca described a massive water serpent in these waters, said to capsize canoes and demand offerings before crossing the lake. While science suggests large lake sturgeon might explain some sightings, the legend of Bessie still remains one of Lake Erie's most enduring and unexplained mysteries. The underground salt mine. Under Lake Erie lies another secret, and this one is perhaps the most surprising of all. Deep below the surface is a vast world of salt mines, formed from an ancient ocean that existed over 400 million years ago during the Silurian period. When that ocean slowly evaporated, it left behind thick layers of solid rock salt buried under the earth for millions of years, turning the entire region into a hidden but constantly vulnerable underground system. The Mitchell Map Legacy. This is where the Great Lakes story ends with a twist you wouldn't expect. A single flawed map that helped shape real national borders. In 1755, physician John Mitchell created a detailed map of North America that was later used during the Treaty of Paris in 1783 to help define the border between the United States and British territory. The problem is, the map wasn't fully accurate, but its errors still became legally important. It even showed fake islands in Lake Superior. Yet, they were still written into early border agreements, forcing later corrections. That same map also contributed to major border confusion across the Great Lakes region, including disputes that even led to the Toledo conflict. All right, so those were 25 of the most shocking and dark facts about the Great Lakes. Which one surprised you the most? And what's your own experience around the mysterious side of these waters? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss more shocking and true stories like this, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you in the next one.